Good morning. This is Cecil and Blues. Over the weekend, Yoshi P spoke alongside Matt Hilton at PAX East, hosting a presentation on Heavensward and providing some new details. The beginning of the presentation is a recap of known information, which is okay, actually, because I haven't talked about Final Fantasy XIV's expansion too much on the channel yet, so it gives me the opportunity to do so. This is going to be a brief rundown of all the features they discussed and new information they provided. I'm going off of notes, which is kind of a risk for me because I tend to ramble, so we're going to try and keep this pretty short, but if I go long, I apologize ahead of time. If you are interested in seeing the whole presentation, you can find a link down in the video description. It was hosted on the PAX 2 Twitch channel, and the VOD should be available. Let's take a look here. So, in Heavensward, we're going to be heading into the north of Eorzea, which are the lands controlled by Ishgard, and our primary focus is going to be bringing an end to the 1,000 Years' War that has existed between the Ishgardians and the Dravanians, which are the dragons. To put it more simply, we gonna be punching dragons, son. As we explore the north, our level cap for all jobs has been increased to 60. There have not been any new details about additional class abilities or any philosophy changes to any of the roles yet. But during this presentation, they did give us a taste of what the level 60 artifact armors are going to look like for all classes, and that includes the battle classes in addition to the gathering classes. In addition to the current jobs, they'll also be adding 3 new jobs in Heavensward, one for each role. Something unique about all of these jobs are that they have no base class. In fact, during the presentation, Yoshi P indicated that going forward, they would be abandoning the idea of base classes. The question raised by the community is, what level will you start at then? Are you going to be starting at a job at level 1? Or not, and Yoshi P has expressed that it definitely will not be level 1, but they don't have any information yet to tell us. He wants to keep it secret. And I think the assumption is going to be level 30, because that's where you learn your jobs from the base classes currently. But they may decide to go a different direction. We'll just have to wait until they tell us, I suppose. The additional question it raises for me is, what happens if you want to run a dungeon that's below whatever level they start you at? Are you just going to have your base abilities? And how many base abilities will you have? When you start a level 1 job, you have like 1 button to press. One assumes that they'll give you a few more buttons to press if you start at level 30 or 40. And what happens when you go to run a level 20 dungeon, we'll say? Are you going to just have whatever abilities you had at the start? I guess, again, we'll just wait and see what they have to say about it. They did provide us just a little bit of detail about each of these new jobs, and I'll cover them all one by one here. The new tank class is the Dark Knight. They are going to be using magic points to tap into dark magic, and it looks like their threat generation will involve managing their MP, and in some sort of capacity it'll be used in combat, and they will have tools to restore it, and making sure they don't run out of MP is important to their threat generation. The new healer role is the Astrologian, and this job draws magic out of a deck of cards using what is, by my estimations, the most complex main hand weapon they have introduced in the game. It is this cool little disc that extends out into like a globe that you suspend in your hand, and it spins the cards around, and you draw them out and use them in fancy animations. It looks really cool. I love the main hand for the Astrologian. As they've said, you will be able to switch between 2 stances, but what those 2 stances are was not really clarified. It could really be anything. Currently, white mages can activate Cleric stance, which allows them to do more damage, and then scholars have the option to switch out their pet into one that provides more of a support role as opposed to improved healing. The final role that has been shown off is the DPS role, the Engineer. It's a gun-wielding ranged class with the ability to build drones capable of providing an unknown variety of support functions. It appears they will also be able to modify their weapons in combat, changing their elemental charge or their utility in some way. Very little is known so far. They showed off like some concept designs during the presentation, but then they said, oh, this is all stuff that got scrapped. So what is actually in the job remains a mystery. Additionally, there is going to be a new race, and this is the Aura. If you have currently played through the main story, you have met Lady Yugiri, and she is the hooded woman from Doma, who seems to have horns, and she is an Aura. I assume they will reveal her face when the patch 2.55 stuff comes out, but she is the only Aura, so I don't completely understand. The rest of the Domans all appear to be human, so maybe there'll be some details on why her race is limited and why they join the NPC, or I'm sorry, join the player characters. They do appear to be like part dragon, like that's their appearance, is very draconic, very serpent-like, with horns and scales. And if that's the case, then one assumes that the Holy See, the Ishgardians, will not like them very much, since they are kind of anti-dragon in a big way. So that leads me to wonder if maybe we're not allying with the Ishgardians in this war directly. There is another city-state up there, and they've mentioned it a couple of times. It's the Scholarly community, and I believe it was the city that was destroyed in the main story. And I mean, I guess we'll find out more details when we go up north. But the way that this race looks, the males are tall and thin, like Elzen, but the females appear to have more of a Makote look to them, the Makote females. So, Yoshi P did say that the character customization options will allow you to be either very cute and adorable, or very evil and, I think he used the word succubus to describe what you could do with your appearance. And I like that option. I think it's very cool to have a range that you can choose from, and we should have the opportunity to experience that firsthand, because he revealed that a benchmark software would be made available after the patch 2.55 story patch was released, and he said this will probably happen in early April. And if this benchmark software works similar to the way A Realm Reborn's benchmark software worked, then you'll be able to create a character with the full character creation toolset, and you'll even be able to save that template to load it in when the expansion launches. They also talked a small amount about in-game content. So far the focus has been on the Alexander raid, and it seems like this is going to be 8-man content, like the Binding Coil of Bahamut. In interviews this weekend, Yoshi P indicated that there would be a 2-week lockout for this raid content, and this he wants to allow players to have a chance to experience the story, to try out the new jobs, to look at their existing jobs and their new abilities, and maybe design new rotations, etc. And he just wants everyone to be able to approach that in a way that they don't feel rushed. They don't feel that if they're going to be that, top tier world first raid team, that everyone's gotta blitz through the content, skip all the cutscenes, and immediately get to raiding. And instead, they can take their time, spend 2 weeks getting prepared to raid. And I'm a fan of that. I'm in no way, a part of the world first community. I won't be stepping into those raids probably for quite some time, but we'll see. They have explained that there will be a normal and a hard mode for Alexander, and they should both become available after this 2-week lockout ends. And they explained that the normal mode is going to be balanced to be more accessible to the casual players, and that the hard mode should be even harder, even more difficult than the Binding Coil of Bahamut was. I'm a huge fan of this option. There was a lot of story in the raids in Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn, and if you were a more casual player, you didn't really have an opportunity to experience that story, and I think it's good to kind of give more casual players access to that while still keeping an extremely hard, challenging option available to the players who are looking for that challenge, and they need to make sure that they provide rewards. And in this same interview, he did indicate that the item level difference between the normal mode and the hard mode was going to be quite significant. So if you are participating in the hard mode raids, you're going to be rewarded for that. And that, I think, is very important to the community as a whole. They have also talked about additional primals and new dungeons, and the assumption is there's going to be a 24-man raid, although I'm not sure if they've ever mentioned anything specifically. I can't be sure exactly where they're going with this or the numbers of these things. Like, who knows how many dungeons there will be, and we're just going to have to wait and see as time progresses here. And I got stalled here. I had to scroll down, and I got distracted, and everybody look over there. Okay, good. Let's talk about a new feature that people are very excited about. People are really excited about flying mounts. Details on this are very sparse, but my assumption is that you will only be able to fly in the new areas, and maybe even only specific areas of the new areas. But you will have your own individual flying mounts, just like you have your chocobos or your... like, even now, if you have the Aramon mount, that is a flying mount. So you'll be able to ride these around in the same way you use your current individual mounts. And that's neat, I suppose, but what's far more exciting to me is the idea of a guild airship. This wasn't discussed very much in the panel, but in the interview, Yoshi P discussed the new free company crafting and how your free company would be able to set up a workshop in your basement where you would be able to construct an airship. And it would be fully customizable. There'd be all these different parts, and you could choose, if you want to have a big engine or a big fuel tank, and different other options to how you wanted your airship to work. And there would be different grades, and I'm sure it's going to be a big money sink and a time sink for your whole guild. And as time progresses, like at the very beginning, you're just going to be able to send that airship out on solo missions. It'll go fly off, it'll do things, it'll bring things back. And very similar to like what our retainers do currently. And then, as the patch cycles for 3.0 or Heavensward rolls forward, they will be adding the ability for you and your guild to get on your airship and go on missions with it, and explore new areas where you might find things, or find some place to have a fight with a monster. Apparently these are going to be public areas. They're not like, they're not instanced. So you'll go out there and maybe some other guild has already recently cleared out that area, so maybe you don't get anything out of it. Details on this are fuzzy. He did say that eventually you will also be able to add weapons to your airship to engage in some sort of combat. I don't know if that's going to be against other players or if it's going to be against monsters that you will be fighting. Either way, these features are very exciting to me, but time is going to tell if they live up to some unfair expectations that I've built up in my head. For now, I'm excited though. Speaking of developing features, another thing that was mentioned in an interview, in a separate interview, was that they're already working on another gold saucer feature, and that this feature will be as deep of a system as Chocobo Racing. I'm kind of afraid to guess what this could be because I don't want to like build it up in my head and then be disappointed if it's something totally unrelated, but I've thought of a couple options that it could be. If we stick to Final Fantasy core games, then I think the two most likely options for a deep system that I can remember from Final Fantasy games are the tower defense mini game that was in Final Fantasy VII, where you had to defend the mountain, I think. That's a very fuzzy memory in my brain. Or Blitzball from Final Fantasy X. I think Blitzball may be slightly unlikely because there's no swimming in Final Fantasy XIV, so why would they put an entire underwater soccer game in there? But once you get outside of the core games of Final Fantasy, then who knows where we're going to go. They've got Chocobo Dungeon for the PlayStation, Theatrhythm for 3DS. It really could go any direction. So we'll just have to wait and see see what they do. It's fun to guess, though. That's really about it. Yoshi P keeps details really close to his chest, so who knows what additional details we're going to get prior to the release of Heavensward. It was announced that it will be released on Tuesday, June 23rd, with early access opening on the Friday beforehand, June 19th. Pre-orders will begin on March 16th, and there's a live letter being held this weekend to show off the collector's edition, what's going to be in it, and probably its cost. One assumes. I mean, if you're going to be pre-ordering, that they have to tell you how much you're going to pay for it, right? I've gotten so used to Blizzard's openness over the last several years that it's both frustrating and at the same time refreshing to have so little information available about an expansion that it's less than 3 months away. But, I guess we just have to deal with it as we move forward. What are you most excited for in Heavensward? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this video enjoyable, you can hit the like button, and you can also subscribe to the channel to be notified of new videos when they go live. You can also follow me on Twitter @itsboats. I've included links to the related materials that I used in this video in the video description, in case you're looking to peruse at a greater detail level. I thank you again for tuning in, and I hope you have a great day.